So YACHATZ on page Shin, I, and Aleph. Okay, so reading the blurb right underneath it. Whoa. There it goes. Number I and Zion. So it says, Yishbo HaMatzah HaShenis. This is the introduction to Bina. So what's to say to Bina? She sewed this hay, Betsuras, Dalad, and Vav. Then change the next page. He says, V'yechaber chelik hadalad shehi hanuk, im hamatzach harishona shehi chochma hanikras yud, which is called yud, and v'yihu b'tzir, this tzir. I'm sure exactly what he did here in his language. So he says, Hashem b'chochma yased aretz. Then the next one says, Hashem using chochma, he was able to, I guess, establish the land. And then the other part, that is the vav part, that you're going to keep until the time of the Afikomen. So let me say, I know I was running a little bit. Okay, so let's see what it says here. Let's go over to number I and Zion on the phrase Yishbar Matzah Hashenis, the Bina. He says the second matzah is Bina, the first matzah is Chochma, then again. Shehi Besod Hey Betsuras Hey Dalad and Vav. Dalad over Vav, we'll call it. Matzah Hashniya romezes the Bina. Bina he sewed Oz Hey Hanechteves Betsuras Dalad over Vav. Of the YACHATZ, when you break it, Hotzi es a matzah, so you take this matzah, Machalkim es a dalad min havav umach machalkim yend, and you split off the dalad from the vav. What is this all about? So there's not a lot of explanation here in this part, so let's look at number Kaf Zion down below. So Yishbach b'matzach hashenis the benish he besod hey with the form of a dalad over a vav. So he doesn't really talk about that. It doesn't show us this. So it's also not clear. Let me pull this up a little bit. 1 second. So he says, what's the Bob doing? Afikomen, which we leave that part over to the Afikomen, and we eat it, of course, at the end. Now he says, Reb Shabsai. I tried to look up Reb Shabsai. I wasn't able to because there's a lot of people with that name.
It's called the Siddur Hari. Siddur Hari Reb Shabsai. There's 3 Siddur Haris. So that's one of them.
That's one of them. Okay, very good. Thank you. But that's one of his Siddurim, of course. And I know he has Rav Asher, and I don't know what the other third one is.
Rav Koppel or Kol Yaakov.
Yeah, Koppel. Okay. But exactly about him, I don't know where he came from. So it says over here, he says, okay, that part of the Siddur Reb Shabsai. So over here we have a bunch of things mentioned. The cost of Shukach, they writes it like this: Acher sheniknas kol Elokim canal. Also, all the Elokims come in. What are all the Elokims? The Hainu kol hamochin dekadnus, that is the mitzad ima, that is all of the mochin dekadnus that come from the tzad of ima. So he said, what is that? So he says, a tzrichan the matkom the hainu of she'anit tzrichan the hamtik is a mochin dekadnus shemitzad ima. So now these mochin dekadnus have to be sweetened. Oz anamak Nisan ARI levad. So then we only bring in ha'ara. We said that the essence came in on the right line. He says, ARI levad shall dalad, of the dalad. So we have just a ha'ara for this dalad. Whoso the ARI dekadnus rishon. This is the secret of the ha'ara that comes out of kadnus rishon, the abba dehod. Now I have a little trouble with this, the abba dehod. So it's the Chochmah of Abba is the Chochmah. I don't know what we're talking about here. Chabad the Hod. Hod is in the left line. Hanikta Babina de Zer Anpin. So he says, look at it again what it says. It's hard for me to understand this. He says he sowed ha'ara dekatnas. It's an ara dekatnas. We saw that before. Then in the first line, on the right line, you get the actually atzmos. Here you're getting ha'ara dekatnas rishon. And he says to the Abba of Hod, and assuming that that means that Hod has 10 spheros and one of them is Chachma, I'm not sure. Haniknas bebina de zer anpin, and this Chachma de Hod enters into the, or maybe it's the Hod of Chachma, sounds better. He says, Arishon, the Abba de Hod, Haniknas bebina de zah, that comes into the bina zer anpin. V'hu sheba Lokhu Halevi, so now he brings in another idea that we might have missed somewhere else, is that the second matzah is the matzah of Levi. Shuhu matzah sheni, shuhu Elokim de Kitzonius ho de Abba. Now let's look at it again. He's another difficult phrase here. We're dealing with the Hod of Abba, and he says V'zeh shebalokhu Levi. So the second one, the matzah sheni, shuhu Elokim de Kitzonius ho de Abba. So if there's a Kitzonius to the Hod of Abba, there's a Penemius too. It's on the very outside of this. Shetzir the seer of the hay that you found in that situation, zu hu daled over vav. She'ika ha'arasa, because the main radiance that's coming out over here, not the essence, he said that before, niknas ata binas za, it enters now into the bina of Zer Anpin. So this is the Abba the Hod, enters into Zer Anpin. I would think that he means the Hod the Abba, but I'm not sure. He says she'ika ha'arasa niknas ata bina Zer Anpin. The Bakal Kav Smoley, and it winds up going down the entire left line, Ad Kan Lashona. So it needs more help. He says, Mavur Bezekha Sha'at Beprises a matzah. Now we're separating the matzah. We're breaking the matzah into pieces. On the Mamshichem Esakatnas Rishon, we are being Mamshek, the Katnas Rishon, the Muachabina, the Bitzad Abba, of the Muachabina, that comes from the side of Abba. Let me just read this in Bavur Mezech Sha'at Beprises and Matzim Mamshikim as a Katnas Rishon to bring a Matzah of the Muach Habina the Bitzad Abba, that is the Muach Habina from the side of Abba, that is from the right side. I'm not sure what that means. The Inyanuhu the Hamtek as the Mochan the Katnas Rishon the Bitzad Ima, and the idea is like this: is that you had the Katnas Rishon come from the side of Ima. And now you're bringing the Katnas Rishon for the side of Abba, and that's supposed to sweeten what happened in Ima. So apparently I didn't go over the Os Yodalad, maybe I should. And he says, the Katnas Niknasim Yachdav. So all of the Mochan the Katnas come at the same time. A Mochan the Bitzad Abba, the Mochan the Bitzad Ima. So actually now they come in as a result of your eating the karpas. Hakatas arishon shalamochan de betzad ima. Let me read it. V'chein achar shenikdasoch bekarpa hakatas rishon. The katnas rishon came in shalamochan de betzad ima. So this is the point he wants to make. Niknas atach b'yachad. So together, those also another part. So he says Amnam. So now we have these two here, and the one he said is to sweeten the other. So he said Amnam. So we see like this: Ham shachazu. He rak chelik min akatnas arishon shal muachabina. It's really only a portion of the Katnas Rishon shall Muach Habina the Bitzad Abba, that's coming from the side of Abba. Now I see that I'm a little confused about what he says, the side of Abba, side of Ima. He did say that. Okay, so let's keep going. Who Rach Helek Hadalad shall Shamatzazu. What is the Helek Hadalad? He says Muach Habina the Bitzad Abba. He says this is Katnas Shu Rach Helek Hadalad shall Matzazu. V'helek avav shel matzah zu ana mamshicha b'Achilas Afikomen. So that is going to, this split is going to wind up in that. So now we understand what's going on in the Afikomen. Because you split it. Shal muach habina b'tzad Abba, of this muach of bina, which comes from the side of Abba. So I guess he wants to say that Abba's side has a bina in it also. So he said, "V'nira b'derek zeh remes." So there's a hint over here. L'ramos al minhag Yisrael l'gedoshim shetorahi. So the minhag of the Jewish people, he says, is like Torah. Shenago Yisrael. Where are we here? Here we go. Hayolodim akatanim hotvim as apikomen. So this is a situation where they steal the apikomen. Umuzgar inyan zecha gavar begemara. He says if we looked over the Gemara, you would see this talked about. And it comes out like this: Yesh l'chavin maso the inyan. So exactly what is the sod of the inyan? The feed divri Reb Shab second mavur alon shaver. He says it good. What does he say? Shaharech Afikomen zecha b'hu hakatnas arishon. Which katnas arishon? Marikuvar kosav arav v'feirer b'shar gavanas be'inyan man nishtana in that. Shahakatnas arishon shaykh liyalodim. Yodim Gatanim, he says, Sheesh Lechem Arak Mochen de Katnas V'Dug, because they only have Mochen de Katnas. Excuse me, but now we go to the top of this page. So I'm looking for the transition. So here you have this Dalet and this Vav. I still don't really understand exactly what he means from the Tzad of Abba, the Tzad of Ima. I don't understand exactly, so let's go over to number Kaf Ches, or number Ayin Ches. So here is the V'yechaber Chelik Adalet, and it says, now take the first portion, the Chelik Adalet. Chelik Adalet represents the Nook. Im Hamatzach Rishon, and together, whoops, I'll bring it down here. And together with the Im Hamatzach Rishon, which is the Chochbach HaNikbas Yud V'Yuchu B'Tzir, Daled over Yud. And then he finishes out on number Ayin Tes, the Shachashem B'Chochma Yased Aretz, as the Aretz was Malchus, is really put together as a result of the Shefa that comes through Chochma, from Chochma. V'chelik HaVav Yaniach L'Afikomen, and we said that the Vav we leave until the Afikomen. So here you're taking the Daled, which I guess is the larger piece, and you're going to put it together with the first matzah, and we'll see how that goes up. And the first matzah represents Abba, Chochma. So I think, yes, so we would be on number Ayin Ches in the light print. He says, Chedek Hadalad Shel Oz Hey Azos. So the fourth portion, Chedek Hadalad, that not the fourth portion, excuse me, the portion that looks like a Dalet, shall Oz Hey Hazos Romezes the Nook, is a reference to the Nook, as we know from other places. Hanikras Dalet V'Chaniah, who's called by those names, which gives it the same idea as the Dalet, the letter Dalet. Umechabrim Oso Ima Matzah Rishonach remembers the Chochma Shehi Bechinas Oz Yud. It just talked about how we need that side to sweeten it. Because Chaver Es Dalet Shalom Matzah Shnia and El Matzah Rishona, which is the letter Yud, Yihu Yachad, the letters Dalet over Yud. Shuhu Os Hey Shebachachma. This is the letter Hey that we find in Chochma Hanechteves B'tzuras Dalet Yud Gezeh. So, okay, so he says that there's another way to represent. Let me see. Shuhu Os Hey Shebachachma. Hanechteves B'tzuras D Gezeh, Dalet Yud Gezeh. Now, what is the It's a transition that took place here. It doesn't say exactly how you're supposed to do that, but he says when you put the two, I guess when you put the two matzahs together, the matzah rishon and the dalet of the matzah sheni, that you're actually putting together the idea of the yud going together with the dalet. So he says shuhu os hey shebachachma on the chtavis b'tzuras dalet over yud kazan. Then he says, I'll just read I keep reading on. He says Shetzuras Os Hey Hazos is Daled over Yud. Let's look at number Ayin Tes. And Ayin Tes is Hashem b'chochma yased aretz. So why did he say that? And he bring that to us. Zbir kan es hasod lama mechabrim es chedek hamalchus. Why are we joining malchus together? Shehi the tzuras of the Daled, which we explained the Daled. Imamatz rishon shehi, which is chochma. What's the point of this? The Sheikar binyan the Malchus, because the main way that Malchus is built, whom Aras Abba, is from that radiance that's coming from Abba. Kamosha Nirmaz b'pasuk Hashem b'chochma yased aretz. So when you think about this, you said what's coming from Abba, but that's the origin of all the shefa that the Nook gets. So I guess he's focusing on that because it still has to go through Zeranpin to reach the Nook. Kamosha nirmaz b'pasuk Hashem b'chochma yased aretz. B'chochma, Rome is all parts of Abba. It's really talking about the parts of Abba, which is the first matzah. Yased aretz sheha malchus. She'abba hu haboina umiyased es parts of malchus. I'm not getting into details on that. V'lechein ana mitzarfim es chelik adalet. So now the idea is like this. So the first thing is you broke them. You put the small piece aside for the Afikomen, which is a chelik. He didn't really talk about that. Is the chelik of the Katnas Rishon. So at any rate, he gets involved with the children. I guess that's what he said. Gets involved with the children steal it, or they try to get it, and that is all the Katnas playing with that Afikomen. So they went together. I guess that is in his idea. So let's go back to the Lechein. Ana mitzarfim as a chelik hadal shicham, which is the malchus, alamatza rishona, which is the chochma. So he said that. So he said the chelik avav yaniach l'afikomen. That's what he said, that before there was an original piece that was broken off. What happened to it? So you put it in a special bag for the afikomen. Ash he locked up a matzah in sois after we divided up the middle matzah. Shehi os hey b'tzir dalad vav. So we did that, and now we have a dalad. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring the concept here of bringing the hay into it to sweeten that dalad, I guess. V'chelik hadalad hachzarno l'kara. So the other piece we put back onto the plate again. L'chavrach of imamatza halyana to join it together with the upper matzah. Lokim as chelik hanisha, so we take the portion that's left over, which is the vav shel hey hazos, and then manichem asol afikomen, and we lead it to the afikomen. Okay, so I was going to go to number Kaf Ches because I didn't really understand what he did, and we did that already. Okay, number Kaf Ches. Let's see if I can understand this. Number Kaf says, "V'yechaber chelik hadal," which is the nook, im matzah rishona, together with the first matzah, shehi chachma hanikras yud, which is also chachma, but it's called by the name yud vav dalad, like that. V'yi yechud b'tzir dalad and yud. Now I don't know why he spelled it out. It's just confusing me. But he said he wanted to do that, so he did. So he said, so the RASHASH wrote it like this: Yud v'yihu b'tzir dalad and yud. Inyan zeh is a b'shar kavanos. Of course, this is really in the shar kavanos. Shemachabrim es a matzach of shnia b'bechinas dalad, which is the dalad, v'romezes the nog, im a matzach al yana, which is yud. So understand what you're doing here. Haromezes the chachma. Now, you have the two of them together, v'yachtem heim na'asim hey achas, not together, and this is the part that I really want to hear a little bit better. We're talking about bringing in the left line. So I thought, bringing in Bina, we're dealing with the Levi matzah. So he says, heim na'asim hey achas. Amnam, Hu inyan nifla. Why? Because when you put them together and they make the letter Hey, he said, but now look at it and you'll see that the Daled hovers over the Yud. Shuhu Chachma. So he says, well, that's interesting. So therefore, Tzarech Ian Havana Zayin to understand how it is that the Daled, we have this phrase where Malchus reaches up above and becomes a crown on the head. Just I don't have where the crown of the head is there on pen. So maybe that's this idea here. I don't know. Now we're moving on, and we're going to go to the next part, which is Magid. So he has a little note at the very top. He says, "Yukavid the kaim mitzvahs asay v'hagada decha." So then we see the word Magid, and then he writes like this, and I'm going to read just the top part now. Magid da'araisa. So Magid, they're actually saying over the Haggadah, is da'araisa. The kos itself, the kos sheni that you're dealing with, is going to be from the Rabbanan. So let's read on a little bit more. Ayedei the kikos kos, so he explains it out a little bit better. Now you take the kos in your hand, and then you go to v'amiris habrachos, and then you're going to say the brachos on it. V'haggadah niknas, and the brachos and the Haggadah. Niknas kav small the ima. This brings in the left line of ima. Now maybe what we were talking about before was the right line. So I'm really confused about some of the language, and there's more languaging here. So let's look at number pei bet, pei aleph, pei bet, pei aleph. Where was pei aleph? Okay. Magi d'oraisa v'kos the Rabbanan. Al yedecha v'mitzvahs d'oraisa mamshichen mochin l'zuna gedolim. So here we have to know the difference between Zuna Gedolim, and I'm assuming when he says Zuna Ketanim, I'm thinking that he means Yaakov Arachel. So he says Zuna Ketanim, Mamshichen Mochen Zuna Gedolim, Al Yedechem B'Mitzvah the Rabbanan Mamshichen Mochen Zuna Ketanim, and so that idea. So we talked about it a little bit before. V'ayin le'era b'shefa b'shash b'oz aleph. Because the Rishon on the first coast, Masha Kasab the buyer Kavanaso, in order to explain that, the Kumo Kain Kavanaso Kan, so the same thing is Kavana here. The Kavan Shachakos Atzmo who rock mitzvah the Rabbanan. After the Hamshek al Yada Mocha Habina the Mitzad Ima, that's with as Moach Habina. You can't bring the Moach Habina, the Mitzad Ima that's coming in from the Imadika side, which is what we're dealing here with the matzahs. L'zuna gedolim, the zuna gedolim, because you can't have katnas bringing in godless. V'hu raka yedecha haggadah, so that only comes in as a result of starting the haggadah hane'amaris ala kos. Shehi mitzvah midaraisa, which is a mitzvah daraisa to say this over. You're saying it over the kos, so it's coming from a higher level. So he says, Al yada nimshachan amochim shal hakos gam kain lezun hagadolim. Okay, so there's no explanation really there about what zuna gadolim is v'zum katana, but I think we're probably talking zocher v'nok. We have zer anpin and malchus, and then we have malchus is also divided. I think, as he said, that zuna katanim. I'm thinking that he's saying that guna katanim is also known as malchus, because that's what Yaakov and Rachel are. He said that previously. So let's go to number pei bet, and he says, Al yedei lekichos the kos. Now you take the kos in your hand. You're saying the Gada. Then you say the Haggadah niknas kav small the ima. So now you have the left line of imas able to come in, because every portion has 3 lines. So this is the left line of ima. Kavanas kos hasheni hu lahamshech as kol kav as small the betzad ima. Shuhu b'moachabina, which is the moachabina. Im kol mochin shabasocho, together with all of the other mochin that you find that are inside of it. So he says, "V'hu al yedecha lekikas kos." So this is because you took the kos. Shal yedecha shal yado mamshik as the or hapenimi shel Moachabina. So he says this causes the Or Panimi of the Moachabina to come in. Okay, so now that by saying the bracha, now you're saying the Agada, Mamshek as a Or Hamakiv Shechel V'Muachabina, so the Or Hamakiv for the Muachabina starts to flow in. Am the Kaven Shebegadushas a Yom Niknasach B'Mochen the Godless Rishon Bein the Yisrael Sava Bein the Tavuna, so all of the Godless Rishon is in. What are we dealing with here? When you had the kavana that these mochen already came in, the kuvanim gam as the mochen the Yisrael Sava, so you have to think about that too, is also there. Even so, that already came in. I'm not sure what he added to my thinking there. So let's look at number Kaf test. We have like a couple of minutes. He says, so he said, okay, we'll see you, Rebbe. Call and that's it. That's the shir today. We try to get into as much as we can. So this is your Sabbath speaking, Baruch Fleischman at your Itikun elevator call.